At 79, Sally Field's final Hollywood farewell leaves fans in tears. At 79, Sally Field stepped back from Hollywood after nearly 6 decades in front of the camera. Her farewell looked graceful on the surface. Yet those who knew her best could see something heavier behind that quiet goodbye. For years, she carried secrets the cameras never caught, pain she buried beneath awards and applause, and a story that only began surfacing in her final chapters. Why did she wait this long to speak about the things she held since childhood? And what really happened inside that Pasadena house that shaped every role she ever played? The truth runs deeper than fans ever realized. The childhood that built a fortress. Sally Field's childhood looked ordinary from the outside. Family photos, school years, California addresses, all the usual pieces that make a life seem settled. Yet underneath that surface, something much darker was taking shape, and it stayed with her for years. She was born Sally Margaret Field on November 6, 1946 in Pasadena, California. Her mother, Margaret Field, was an actress in film and television. Her father, Richard Dryenfield, was a pharmacist and former U.S. Army captain. Then in 1950, when Sally was only 4, her parents divorced. 2 years later, her mother married stuntman and actor Jock Mahoney. Later, in interviews in her 2018 memoir In Pieces, she described Mahoney as a man who terrorized her. He was charming one moment and frightening the next. She remembered one outburst when he threw her across a yard in anger. But the deepest wound came in the quiet moments, sexual abuse that stretched from early childhood until she was around 14. That abuse was quiet, manipulative, and wrapped in the appearance of ordinary family life. It left few outward signs, yet inside it damaged her sense of safety, power, and identity. By her late teens, Sally was struggling with severe depression, sudden bursts of rage, and binge eating. The connection between those symptoms and her trauma became clearer much later, after therapy and the emotional work of writing her memoir. The Flying Nun Trap. In 1965, at just 19, Sally Field walked into a Columbia Pictures casting call and emerged with the lead role in ABC's teen surf comedy Gidget. The show lasted only 1 season, but summer reruns turned it into a surprise hit. Teen audiences found her bright, lively performance impossible to ignore. But that image followed her quickly and trapped her. Hollywood saw her as cute, cheerful, and perfect for light comedy. Through 1966 and 1967, she turned up in guest roles, always playing some version of the bubbly girl next door. Then came the role that made her famous across America and cemented that box around her. In September 1967, ABC launched The Flying Nun. The premise was impossible to take seriously: a tiny young nun whose oversized cornet caught the wind and sent her into the air. The show ran for 3 seasons and 82 episodes, turning her into a national star. It also made her the face of a joke she never wanted to be trapped inside. Years later, she admitted she hated working on the show. Wearing the wire-rigged costume, hanging from cables, acting out scenes built around a flying nun, it left her feeling humiliated. By then, she wanted serious work. She wanted something real. But one agent told her she wasn't pretty enough or good enough for dramatic roles. The Escape, Lee Strasberg and Sybil. Around 1973, she made a choice that changed everything. She went to the actor's studio in New York and began rebuilding herself from the inside out. Under Lee Strasberg's method training, she spent roughly 2 years stripping away the habits television had rewarded. She lost the cute line readings, the broad gestures, and the easy sitcom rhythms. In their place, she built something deeper. She learned how to create a real private life for a character and carry layers of feeling beneath the words. That training became the bridge between the smiling television star people thought they knew and the serious actress she was trying to become. The role that proved the transformation was Sybil. Shot in 1975 and aired in 1976, the television film gave Sally Field the material she had been reaching for all along. She played Sybil Dorset, a graduate student whose severe childhood abuse led to the development of multiple personalities. The part demanded emotional intensity at a level she had never been allowed to show before. Viewers who still thought of her as the girl from Gidget or the Flying Nun were forced to see something else now. She was astonishing, and the industry responded. In 1977, she won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Special. That award marked the turning point she had fought so hard to reach. The Oscar years and complicated love. Her success accelerated quickly. In 1977, Smokey and the Bandit made her a bankable movie actress. She won her first Academy Award for Norma Ray in 1980, playing a textile worker who becomes a union organizer. 5 years later, she won a second Oscar for Places in the Heart, where she famously said, "I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me." But behind that rising success, she was carrying private pain. She had met Burt Reynolds on the set of Smokey and the Bandit, and their nearly 5-year relationship deeply complicated her life. In her memoir, published less than 2 weeks after Reynolds died in 2018, she described the relationship as painful and emotionally damaging. She had felt herself fading under his expectations, dressing for him, looking for him, walking for him as if parts of her own identity were being pushed aside. The mother figure, from screen to advocacy. By the 1990s, Field became Hollywood's defining face of complicated womanhood. She was the emotional anchor of Mrs. Doubtfire in Forrest Gump, and the defining mother figure of an era. In 2000, she joined ER as a bipolar mother, reminding audiences she could own modern prestige drama. On Brothers and Sisters, which ran from 2006 to 2011, she played Nora Walker, the heart of a messy family, winning another Emmy in 2007. Even in her 60s, she kept stretching. In 2012, she played Mary Todd Lincoln in Spielberg's Lincoln, gaining 25 pounds to match historical documentation. In Hello, My Name is Doris, 2015, she pushed against Hollywood's habit of making women over 60 invisible. She played Doris without asking for pity, awkward, lonely, desirous, and painfully exposed. The Memoir and the Reckoning. When In Pieces was published on September 18, 2018, at age 71, she revealed the sexual abuse by her stepfather. She wrote about a secret abortion in Tijuana at 17, and revisited a 1970s audition with director Bob Rafelson that had left a permanent mark. The memoir changed how readers saw her whole career. What had once looked like poise alone now seemed tied to survival. Her work in Sybil felt almost unbearably personal in hindsight. Her refusal to stay small in Norma Ray suddenly seemed connected to something more private and more urgent. The final chapter, Selective Excellence. In 2025 and 2026, Sally Field entered what could have been a quiet chapter. Instead, she demonstrated that retirement on her terms meant selective excellence, not disappearance. Sally Field has not formally declared full retirement from acting, but she has repeatedly indicated that she is limiting her workload and choosing only projects that fit within her current physical constraints. In interviews and public appearances, she has been direct about the realities of aging in an industry built on denial. In March 2024, she appeared on the Wiser Than Me podcast, hosted by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, to call out the ageism she has experienced. She spoke plainly about how few real stories are written for women as they age, and how the industry's gaze narrows with each passing year. Yet even as she stepped back, she continued choosing meaningful work. Netflix announced an adaptation of Shelby Van Pelt's best-selling novel Remarkably Bright Creatures, with Sally Field cast in the lead role as Tova. Filmed in Vancouver in 2025, the film marked a careful, intentional return to the screen. The film was released on Netflix on May 8, 2026, to positive reviews from critics. The website's consensus on Rotten Tomatoes reads, "Grounded by a characteristically wonderful Sally Field, Remarkably Bright Creatures is a sweet melodrama that tugs the heartstrings with admirable restraint." In the film, Field plays Tova, whose non-nonsense exterior masks some of her long-buried pain over losing her husband and son years ago. The role felt almost inevitable, a quiet, complex widow finding unexpected connection and joy late in life. A life in full color. By 2025, the honors had gathered around Sally Field in a way that felt like genuine understanding. In 2015, Barack Obama presented her with the National Medal of Arts. In 2019, she became a Kennedy Center honoree. In 2023, she received the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award. These weren't small gestures. They felt like an industry finally taking in the whole shape of her life and career, not just the performances, but the private fight that fueled them. At 79, her farewell wasn't about disappearing. It was about choosing. After decades of fighting for roles that matched her depth, she now had the power to select only the work that mattered. She could step away from the noise, the pressure, the relentless demand to be young forever. What remained was the fuller truth: Sally Field had fought her way out of being underestimated. She had done it while carrying far more than most people ever knew. And in her final chapters, she was still teaching the industry and audiences what real strength looks like: the courage to speak your truth, the wisdom to rest when you need to, and the grace to let go when the time comes. Her farewell left fans in tears, not because she was disappearing, but because they finally understood the cost of everything she had carried, and the beautiful, hard-won peace she had earned.